Read through the Bible Challenge Day 39. I will be reading Leviticus 4, 5, and 6, as well as Matthew 25, verse 1 to 30 from the Amplified Bible. Let's start. Leviticus 4, the law of sin offerings. 1 Then the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, Speak to the children of Israel. If a person sins unintentionally in any of the things which the Lord has commanded not to be done, and commits any of them, if the anointed priest sins, bringing guilt on the people, then he shall offer to the Lord a young bull, without blemish, as a sin offering for the sin he has committed. He shall bring the bull to the doorway of the tent of meeting before the Lord, and shall lay his hand on the bull's head, transferring symbolically his guilt to the sacrifice, and kill the bull before the Lord. Then the anointed priest is to take some of the bull's blood and bring it into the tent of meeting. And the priest shall dip his finger in the blood and sprinkle some of it 7 times before the Lord in front of the veil, curtain, of the sanctuary. The priest shall also put some of the blood on the horns of the altar of fragrant incense, which is before the Lord in the tent of meeting. All the rest of the blood of the bull he shall pour out at the base of the altar of the burnt offering, which is at the doorway of the tent of meeting. He shall remove all the fat from the bull of the sin offering, the fat that covers the entrails, and all the fat which is on the entrails, and the 2 kidneys with the fat that is on them at the loins, and the lobe of the liver, which he shall remove with the kidneys, just as these are removed from the ox of the sacrifice of peace offerings. And the priest is to offer them up in smoke on the altar of burnt offering. But the hide of the bull and all its meat, with its head, its legs, its entrails, and its refuse, that is, all the rest of the bull, he is to bring outside the camp to a clean place where the ashes are poured out, and burn it on a fire of wood. Where the ashes are poured out, it shall be burned. Now if the whole congregation of Israel sins unintentionally, and the matter escapes the notice of the assembly, and they have done any one of the things which the Lord has commanded not to be done, and they become guilty, when the sin which they have committed becomes known, then the congregation shall offer a young bull of the herd as a sin offering and bring it before the tent of meeting. Then the elders of the congregation shall lay their hands on the head of the bull before the Lord, to transfer symbolically the congregation's guilt to the sacrifice, and they shall kill the bull before the Lord. The anointed priest is to bring some of the bull's blood to the tent of meeting, and the priest shall dip his finger in the blood and sprinkle it 7 times before the Lord, in front of the veil, which screens off the Holy of Holies and the Ark of the Covenant. He shall put some of the blood on the horns of the altar of incense, which is before the Lord in the tent of meeting. And he shall pour out all the rest of the blood at the base of the altar of burnt offering, which is at the doorway of the tent of meeting. He shall remove all its fat from the bull and offer it up in smoke on the altar. He shall also do with the bull just as he did with the bull of the sin offering. That is what he shall do with this. So the priest shall make atonement for the sin of the people, and they will be forgiven. Then the priest is to bring the bull outside the camp and burn it as he burned the first bull. It is the sin offering for the congregation. When a ruler or leader sins and unintentionally does any one of the things the Lord his God has commanded not to be done, and he becomes guilty, if a sin which he has committed is made known to him, he shall bring a goat, a male without blemish, as his offering. He shall lay his hand on the head of the male goat, transferring symbolically his guilt to the sacrifice, and kill it in the place where they kill the burnt offering before the Lord. It is a sin offering. Then the priest is to take some of the blood of the sin offering with his finger and put it on the horns of the altar of burnt offering. And the rest of its blood he shall pour out at the base of the altar of burnt offering. And he shall offer all its fat up in smoke on the altar like the fat from the sacrifice of peace offerings. So the priest shall make atonement for him in regard to his sin, and he will be forgiven. If any one of the common people sins unintentionally by doing any of the things the Lord has commanded not to be done, and becomes guilty, if a sin which he has committed is made known to him, then he shall bring a goat, a female without blemish, as his offering for the sin which he has committed. He shall lay his hand on the head of the sin offering, transferring symbolically his guilt to the sacrifice, and kill it at the place of the burnt offering. The priest shall take some of its blood with his finger and put it on the horns of the altar of burnt offering, and shall pour out all the rest of its blood at the base of the altar. Then he shall remove all its fat, just as the fat was removed from the sacrifice of peace offerings, and the priest shall offer it up in smoke on the altar as a sweet and soothing aroma to the Lord. In this way the priest shall make atonement for him, and he will be forgiven. If he brings a lamb as his offering for a sin offering, he shall bring a female without blemish. He shall lay his hand on the head of the sin offering, transferring symbolically his guilt to the sacrifice, and kill it as a sin offering in the place where they kill the burnt offering. The priest is to take some of the blood of the sin offering with his finger and put it on the horns of the altar of burnt offering, and all the rest of the blood of the lamb he shall pour out at the base of the altar. Then he shall remove all its fat, just as the fat of the lamb is removed from the sacrifice of the peace offerings, and the priest shall offer it up in smoke on the altar, on the offerings by fire to the Lord. In this way the priest shall make atonement for him in regard to the sin which he has committed, and he will be forgiven. Leviticus 5, the law of guilt offerings. If anyone sins after he hears a public adjuration, solemn command to testify, when he is a witness, whether he has seen or otherwise known something, if he fails to report it, then he will bear his guilt and be held responsible. Or if someone touches any ceremonially unclean thing, whether the carcass of an unclean wild animal or the carcass of an unclean domestic animal or the carcass of unclean creeping things, even if he is unaware of it, he has become unclean and he will be guilty. Or if he touches human uncleanness, whatever kind it may be, and he becomes unclean, but he is unaware of it, when he recognizes it, he will be guilty. Or if anyone swears an oath thoughtlessly or impulsively aloud that he will do either evil or good, in whatever manner a person may speak thoughtlessly or impulsively with an oath, but he is unaware of it, when he recognizes it, he will be guilty in one of these. So it shall be when a person is guilty in one of these, that he shall confess the sin he has committed. He shall bring his guilt offering to the Lord for the sin which he has committed, a female from the flock, a lamb or a goat, as a sin offering. So the priest shall make atonement on his behalf for his sin. But if he cannot afford a lamb, then he shall bring 2 turtle doves or 2 young pigeons as his guilt offering for his sin to the Lord, one as a sin offering and the other as a burnt offering. He shall bring them to the priest, who shall offer first the one for the sin offering, and shall nip its head at the front of its neck, but shall not sever it completely. He shall also sprinkle some of the blood of the sin offering on the side of the altar, and the rest of the blood shall be drained out at the base of the altar. It is a sin offering. The second bird he shall prepare as a burnt offering according to the ordinance. So the priest shall make atonement on his behalf for the sin which he has committed, and it will be forgiven him. But if he cannot afford to bring 2 turtle doves or 2 young pigeons, then he shall bring as his offering for his sin the 10th part of an ephah of fine flour as a sin offering. He shall not put olive oil or incense on it, for it is a sin offering. He shall bring it to the priest, who shall take a handful of it as a memorial portion and offer it up in smoke on the altar, with the offerings by fire to the Lord. It is a sin offering. In this way the priest shall make atonement for him for the sin which he has committed in one of these things, and it will be forgiven him. Then the rest shall be for the priest, like the grain offering. Then the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, If a person commits a breach of faith and sins unintentionally against the holy things of the Lord, then he shall bring his guilt offering to the Lord, a ram without blemish from the flock, valued by you in shekels of silver, that is, the shekel of the sanctuary, as a guilt offering. He shall make restitution for the sin which he has committed against the holy thing, and shall add 1/5 of the ram's value to it, and give it to the priest. The priest shall then make atonement for him with the ram of the guilt offering, and he shall be forgiven. Now, if anyone sins and does any of the things which the Lord has forbidden, though he was not aware of it, still he is guilty and shall bear his punishment. He is then to bring to the priest a ram without blemish from the flock, according to your valuation, for a guilt offering. In this way the priest shall make atonement for him regarding the error which he committed unintentionally and did not know it, and he shall be forgiven. It is a guilt offering. He was certainly guilty before the Lord. Leviticus 6, guilt offerings. Then the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, When anyone sins and acts unfaithfully against the Lord by deceiving his neighbor, companion, associate, in regard to a deposit or a security entrusted to him, or through robbery, or if he has extorted from his neighbor, or has found what was lost and lied about it and sworn falsely, so that he sins in regard to any one of the things a man may do. Then if he has sinned and is guilty, he shall restore what he took by robbery, or what he got by extortion, or the deposit which was entrusted to him, or the lost thing which he found, or anything about which he has sworn falsely. He shall not only restore it in full, but shall add to it 1/5 more. He shall give it to the one to whom it belongs on the day of his guilt offering. Then he shall bring to the priest his guilt offering to the Lord, a ram without blemish from the flock, as valued by you, as a guilt offering. The priest shall make atonement for him before the Lord, and he will be forgiven for any one of the things which he may have done to incur guilt. The priest's part in the offerings. Then the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, Command Aaron and his sons, saying, This is the law of the burnt offering. The burnt offering shall remain on the hearth that is on the altar all night until morning, and the fire is to be kept burning on the altar. The priest is to put on his linen robe, with his linen undergarments next to his body. Then he shall take up the ashes of the burnt offering which the fire has consumed on the altar, and put them beside the altar. Then he shall take off his garments and put on something else, and take the ashes outside the camp to a ceremonially clean place. The fire on the altar shall be kept burning. It shall not be allowed to go out. The priest shall burn wood on it every morning, and he shall arrange the burnt offering on it, and offer the fat portions of the peace offerings up in smoke on it. The fire shall be burning continually on the altar. It shall not be allowed to go out. Now, this is the law of the grain offering. The sons of Aaron shall present it before the Lord in front of the altar. One of them shall take up from it a handful of the fine flour of the grain offering with its oil and all the incense that is on the grain offering, and he shall offer it up in smoke on the altar, a sweet and soothing aroma, as the memorial offering to the Lord. What is left of it Aaron and his sons are to eat. It shall be eaten as unleavened bread in a holy place. They are to eat it in the courtyard of the tent of meeting. It shall not be baked with leaven, which represents corruption or sin. I have given it as their share of my offerings by fire. It is most holy, like the sin offering and the guilt offering. Every male among the sons of Aaron may eat it as his share. It is a permanent ordinance throughout your generations, from offerings by fire to the Lord. Whatever touches them will become consecrated, ceremonially clean. Then the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, This is the offering which Aaron and his sons are to present to the Lord on the day when he is anointed. The 1/10 of an ephah of fine flour as a regular grain offering, half of it in the morning and half of it in the evening. It shall be prepared with oil on a griddle. When it is well stirred, you shall bring it. You shall present the grain offering in baked pieces as a sweet and soothing aroma to the Lord. The priest from among the sons of Aaron, who is anointed in his place, shall offer it. By a permanent statute, it shall be entirely offered up in smoke to the Lord. So every grain offering of the priest shall be burned entirely. It shall not be eaten. Then the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, Speak to Aaron and his sons, saying, This is the law of the sin offering. The sin offering shall be killed before the Lord in the same place where the burnt offering is killed. It is most holy. The priest who offers it for sin shall eat it. It shall be eaten in a holy place, in the courtyard of the tent of meeting. Whatever touches its meat will become consecrated, ceremonially clean. When any of its blood splashes on a garment, you shall wash what was splashed on in a holy place. Also the earthenware vessel in which it was boiled shall be broken. And if it was boiled in a bronze vessel, then that vessel shall be scoured and rinsed in water. Every male among the priests may eat this offering. It is most holy. But no sin offering from which any of the blood is brought into the tent of meeting to make atonement in the holy place shall be eaten. It shall be completely burned in the fire. Matthew 25. Parable of 10 virgins. Then the kingdom of heaven will be like 10 virgins, who took their lamps and went to meet the bridegroom. 5 of them were foolish, thoughtless, silly, and careless, and 5 were wise, far-sighted, practical, and sensible. For when the foolish took their lamps, they did not take any extra oil with them, But the wise took flasks of oil along with their lamps. Now while the bridegroom was delayed, they all began to nod off, and they fell asleep. But at midnight there was a shout, "Look, the bridegroom is coming. Go out to meet him." Then all those virgins got up and put their own lamps in order, trimmed the wicks and added oil and lit them. But the foolish virgins said to the wise, "Give us some of your oil, because our lamps are going out." But the wise replied, "No, otherwise there will not be enough for us and for you, too. Go instead to the dealers and buy oil for yourselves." But while they were going away to buy oil, the bridegroom came, and those who were ready went in with him to the wedding feast, and the door was shut and locked. Later the others also came and said, "Lord, Lord, open the door for us." But he replied, "I assure you and most solemnly say to you, I do not know you. We have no relationship. Therefore, be on the alert, be prepared and ready, for you do not know the day nor the hour when the Son of Man will come." Parable of the Talents. For it is just like a man who was about to take a journey, and he called his servants together and entrusted them with his possessions. To one he gave 5 talents, to another 2, and to another 1, each according to his own ability. And then he went on his journey. The one who had received the 5 talents went at once and traded with them, and he made a profit and gained 5 more. Likewise, the one who had 2 made a profit and gained 2 more. But the one who had received the 1 went and dug a hole in the ground and hid his master's money. Now after a long time the master of those servants returned and settled accounts with them. And the one who had received the 5 talents came and brought him 5 more, saying, "Master, you entrusted to me 5 talents. See, I have made a profit and gained 5 more talents." His master said to him, "Well done, good and faithful servant. You have been faithful and trustworthy over a little. I will put you in charge of many things. Share in the joy of your master." Also the one who had the 2 talents came forward, saying, "Master, you entrusted 2 talents to me. See, I have made a profit and gained 2 more talents." His master said to him, "Well done, good and faithful servant. You have been faithful and trustworthy over a little. I will put you in charge of many things. Share in the joy of your master." The one who had received 1 talent also came forward, saying, "Master, I knew you to be a harsh and demanding man, reaping the harvest where you did not sow and gathering where you did not scatter seed. So I was afraid to lose the talent, and I went and hid your talent in the ground. See, you have what is your own." But his master answered him, "You wicked, lazy servant, you knew that I reap the harvest where I did not sow and gather where I did not scatter seed. Then you ought to have put my money with the bankers, and at my return I would have received my money back with interest. So take the talent away from him and give it to the one who has the 10 talents. For to everyone who has and values his blessings and gift from God, and has used them wisely, more will be given, and he will be richly supplied so that he will have an abundance. But from the one who does not have, because he has ignored or disregarded his blessings and gifts from God, even what he does have will be taken away." Matt 13:12, Luke 19 verse 26, "And throw out the worthless servant into the outer darkness. In that place of grief and torment, there will be weeping over sorrow and pain and grinding of teeth over distress and anger." The judgment. But when the Son of Man comes in his glory and majesty and all the angels with him, then he will sit on the throne of his glory. All the nations will be gathered before him for judgment, and he will separate them from one another, as a shepherd separates his sheep from the goats. And he will put the sheep on his right, the place of honor, and the goats on his left, the place of rejection. Then the king will say to those on his right, "Come, you blessed of my Father, you favored of God, appointed to eternal salvation, inherit the kingdom prepared for you from the foundation of the world. For I was hungry, and you gave me something to eat. I was thirsty, and you gave me something to drink. I was a stranger, and you invited me in. I was naked, and you clothed me. I was sick, and you visited me with help and ministering care. I was in prison, and you came to me, ignoring personal danger." Then the righteous will answer him, "Lord, when did we see you hungry and feed you, or thirsty and give you something to drink? And when did we see you as a stranger and invite you in, or naked and clothe you? And when did we see you sick or in prison and come to you?" The king will answer and say to them, "I assure you and most solemnly say to you, to the extent that you did it for one of these brothers of mine, even the least of them, you did it for me." Then he will say to those on his left, "Leave me, you cursed ones, into the eternal fire which has been prepared for the devil and his angels, demons. For I was hungry, and you gave me nothing to eat. I was thirsty, and you gave me nothing to drink. I was a stranger, and you did not invite me in, naked, and you did not clothe me, sick and in prison, and you did not visit me, with help and ministering care." Then they also, in their turn, will answer, "Lord, when did we see you hungry or thirsty, or as a stranger or naked or sick or in prison, and did not minister to you?" Then he will reply to them, "I assure you and most solemnly say to you, to the extent that you did not do it for one of the least of these, my followers, you did not do it for me." Then these unbelieving people will go away into eternal, unending punishment, but those who are righteous and in right standing with God will go, by his remarkable grace, into eternal, unending life. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe.